Hello. Okay, Magic Mike's Last Dance, directed once again by Steven Soderbergh, who also directed the first movie. The film stars Channing Tatum as Mike, a retired male stripper who leaves Florida for London to help a socialite played by Salma Hayek to produce a stage play. Now, I've only ever seen the first movie, and that was years ago. I can barely remember it, but I kind of remember liking it. I was surprised by it, and I've never seen the second movie. So, Magic Mike, The Last Dance. I'm going to start off with one of the biggest negatives for me with this film, and that's the writing. The writing in this film, I thought, was just terrible. Just really poor, and there's a lot of talking in this film, a lot more than I was expecting, and there's a lot of these character moments where you're supposed to sort of end up getting invested and emotionally engaged with these characters and these certain moments and scenes, but because the writing was so poor, the dialogue was just shit, very shitty dialogue, it just felt like a lot of nothing. These character moments just felt a lot of nothing, were just very boring, bland, and I just couldn't really care for a lot of the characters, especially the new character Maxandra, played by Salma Hayek. I just really didn't care for her. In fact, I actually ended up really disliking the character. But I think a lot of it is just down to the writing in this movie. I thought it was very poor. It does nothing to really sort of, even though they attempt to develop these characters and their relationship, Mike and Maxandra's relationship, it just didn't really do anything. I just found the characters annoying, and yeah. And, this is a love story, and I just never really bought into the relationship between the two main characters, Mike and Maxandra. It just didn't feel natural enough for me. And, it's down to the poor writing and how these characters were just drawn. It's a love story, but a very poor love story, and I just didn't buy it. I believe a lot of that is down to the writing, and there are these underlying themes, well, I felt anyway, of wealthy versus poor, and how that came together just didn't really work for me, and in fact left a nasty taste in my mouth. I understand you've got a guy coming from nothing, you've got this very wealthy individual who lures him in, and they end up falling in love, and yeah, I just didn't buy it, and the whole wealth and kind of coming from nothing, sort of that underlying theme there with it throughout the movie just wasn't handled that well. I think it could have been handled a little bit better, so I cared more for the character Maxandra. But there we are. Now, Channing Tatum is fine in this movie. He gave a good performance, and he obviously cares. And he's very impressive when it comes to the moves. Like, this man can move, and it's very sexy. But I do feel that people that go to see this movie because they're fans of the first and the second, I do feel they're going to be disappointed. Now, I could be wrong, and this could just be me, but yeah, I do think the fans of those first two movies are going to be disappointed. The screening that I was at was full of women, or women that had dragged their partners, their boyfriends, their husbands along to see this movie, and I just couldn't help but feel that they were going to be disappointed of the experience as I was watching it. And even myself, I had a certain expectation from the movie, and what we got was not what I was expecting. The whole premise just felt silly as well, and I think if it could have worked maybe if it was done a different or a certain way, but just for me it didn't work, and the characters' journeys throughout the movie just felt unnatural and random. Again, as I previously said, I just don't feel like there was any chemistry between Mike and Maxandra, and I feel like there was relationships between the characters throughout the movie that just took these sudden jumps in time. For example, Channing Tatum's character goes from being introduced to the daughter of Maxandra to then having a very close relationship with her about 10 minutes later, and there was these sudden sort of jumps like that where I felt like I was missing moments of the movie, character developments, so we can actually see these characters grow and sort of interact with each other. And I felt like there was a few moments throughout this film in which it felt like that, where these characters' relationships between each other just sort of jumped in time, and I was like, oh, okay, it kind of throws you out of the film. But then I asked myself, would I have wanted those moments? Would I have wanted those more sort of character building moments? And the answer is no, because what we did get, and with the writing being so poor, it was already feeling very empty. The entire experience was feeling very flat and empty and shallow and boring. So it was like, nah, I'm okay, thank you. And the humour in this movie, I didn't really find it funny. There were a couple of moments. I think there was one moment in which I chuckled, but I can't even remember what that moment was. And it's just because the humour also just felt, it just didn't fit into the story and this film, and it just felt unnatural, and it just didn't work for me. So the sort of the portion of the movie, the third act really, where you've got the theatre, and that portion of the movie, the third act, that's when I found the movie got really interesting, and I started to get a little bit more invested into the story, and I just wanted more of that, and I wanted more of the show. And I just feel like to get to that point, the movie was a slog. And I felt like if we'd had more of that, then I think it would have been a little bit more entertaining. But I just couldn't help but not buy into anything that was going on. And just the way in which everything was put together in terms of the story, the characters, the writing, just did not work. And even with the underlying themes that it's sort of dealing with, and regards to wealth, it just didn't work. The only real moments of stimulation that I had throughout this movie, throughout this experience, was when Mike Channing Tatum was doing his thing on the screen. Like, he is impressive with what he can do with his body, and even those moments sort of ended on a flat note, to be honest with you. This is not the movie I think fans of those first two movies are going to expect. And I don't know. I mean, some might like it, enjoy it. But for me, it just felt really stripped down and just empty. So yeah, they are my thoughts on Magic Mike's The Last Dance. And I will be giving Magic Mike's The Last Dance a 2.5 out of 10. So yeah, they are my thoughts on Magic Mike's The Last Dance. What did you think? Please let me know below, and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. If you want to see future reviews and just general movie talk and me rambling on from a Welsh geek in Wales, then please hit that subscribe button. It'll mean an awful lot. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you guys soon.